The theory of parent-offspring conflict is an alternative to two popular ideas. One is Freud's Oedipal complex, the hypothesis that boys have an unconscious wish to have sex with their mothers and kill their fathers, and therefore fear that their fathers will castrate them. Similarly, in the Electra complex, little girls want to have sex with their fathers. Of course, there is indeed a fact to be explained. In all cultures, young children are sometimes possessive of their mothers and cool to the mother's consort. Parent-offspring conflict offers a straightforward explanation. Daddy's interest in mommy takes her attention away from me, and even worse, threatens to create a baby brother or sister. Children may well have evolved tactics for delaying that sad day by diminishing their mother's interest in sex and keeping their fathers away. It would be a straightforward extension of weaning conflict. The theory explains why so-called Oedipal feelings are as common in girls as in boys, and avoids the preposterous idea that little boys want to copulate with their mothers. Daly and Wilson, who proposed the alternative, believed that Freud's mistake was to run together two different kinds of parent-offspring conflict. Young children are in conflict with their father over access to their mother, but it is not a sexual rivalry. And older children may have a sexual conflict with their parents, especially their fathers, but it is not a rivalry over the mother. In many societies, fathers compete with their sons for sexual partners, explicitly or implicitly. In polygamous societies where a man can have several wives, they might literally compete for the same women. And in most societies, polygamy or monogamy, a father must subsidize his son's quest for a wife at the expense of his other children or his own aspirations. The son may be impatient for the father to begin diverting resources to him. A still robust father is a roadblock to his career. Filicides and parricides in most of the world are touched off by such competition. Parents also arrange marriages, which is a polite way of saying that they sell or trade their children. Here again, interests can conflict. Parents may hammer out a package deal in which one child gets a catch and another gets a loser. In polygamous societies, a father may trade his daughters for wives for himself. Whether a daughter is traded for a daughter-in-law or for a wife, her value can hinge on her virginity. Men do not want to marry a woman who might be carrying another man's child. Effective birth control is recent and still far from universal. Therefore, fathers take an interest in their daughters' sexuality, a mimic of the Electra complex, but without either party desiring the other. In many societies, men take horrifying measures to guarantee a daughter's purity. They may lock her up, cloak her from head to toe, and extirpate her interest in sex by the horrible custom known by the euphemism female circumcision. It is a circumcision in the same sense that Lorena Bobbitt performed. When the measures fail, they may execute an unchaste daughter to preserve what they call, ironically, the family's honor. In 1977, a Saudi princess was publicly stoned to death for bringing dishonor to her grandfather, the brother of the king, by having an indiscreet affair in London. Parent-daughter conflict is a special case of conflict over the ownership of women's sexuality, a topic which we will return to. The other popular theory subverted by parent-offspring conflict is the biology-culture distinction, in which babies are a bundle of uncivilized instincts and parents socialize them into competent, well-adjusted members of society. Personality, in this conventional wisdom, is shaped in the formative years by the parenting process. Parents and children both want the children to prosper in the social milieu, and since children are in no position to shape themselves, socialization represents a confluence of their interests. Trivers reasoned that according to the theory of parent-offspring conflict, parents should not necessarily have their children's interests at heart when they try to socialize them. Just as parents often act against a child's interests, they may try to train the child to act against its own interests. Parents want each child to act more altruistically to its siblings than the child wants to. That is because it pays the parents for a child to be altruistic when the benefit to a sibling exceeds the cost to the child, but it pays the child to be altruistic only when the benefit exceeds twice the cost. For more distant kin, like half-siblings and cousins, the difference between the parent's interest and the child's interest is even greater. because the parent is more closely related to the half-sibling or cousin than the child is. Similarly, parents may try to persuade children that staying home to help at the nest, allowing themselves to be sold in marriage, and other outcomes that are good for the parent, and hence the child's unborn siblings are in fact good for the child. As in all arenas of conflict, parents may resort to deception, and since children are no fools, self-deception. So even if children acquiesce to a parent's rewards, punishments, examples, and exhortations for the time being because they are smaller and have no choice, they should not, according to the theory, allow their personalities to be shaped by these tactics. Trivers went out on a limb with that prediction. The idea that parents shape their children is so ingrained that most people do not even realize it is testable as a hypothesis and not a self-evident truth. The hypothesis has now been tested, and the outcome is one of the most surprising in the history of modern psychology. Personalities differ in at least 5 major ways: whether a person is sociable or retiring, extroversion, introversion; whether a person worries constantly or is calm and self-satisfied, neuroticism versus stability; whether the person is courteous and trusting or rude and suspicious, agreeableness versus antagonism; whether a person is careful or careless, conscientiousness and versus undirectedness; and whether a person is daring or conforming, openness versus non-openness. Where do these traits come from on this spectrum? If they are genetic, identical twins would share them, even if they were separated at birth, and biological siblings would share them even more than adoptive siblings do. If they are a product of socialization by parents, adoptive siblings would share them, and twins and biological siblings would share them more when they grow up in the same home than when they grow up in different homes. Dozens of studies have tested these kinds of predictions on thousands of people in many different countries. The studies have looked not only at these personality traits, but at actual outcomes in life such as divorce and alcoholism. The results are clear and replicable, and they contain 2 shockers. One result has become well known: much of the variation in personality, about 50%, has genetic causes. Identical twins separated at birth are alike. Biological siblings raised together are more alike than adopted siblings. That means that the other 50% must come from the parents and the home. Right? Wrong. Being brought up in one home versus another accounts at most for 5% of the differences among people in personality. Identical twins separated at birth are not only similar, they are virtually as similar as identical twins that are raised together. Adoptive siblings in the same home are not just different, they are about as different as 2 children plucked from the population at random. The biggest influence that parents have on their children is at the moment of conception. I hasten to add that parents are unimportant only when it comes to differences among them and differences among their grown children. Anything that all normal parents do that affects all children is not measured in these studies. Young children surely do need the love, protection, and tutelage of a sane parent. As the psychologist Judith Harris has put it, the studies imply only that children would turn into the same kinds of adults if you left them in their homes and social milieus but switched all the parents around. No one knows where the other 45% of the variation comes from. Perhaps personality is shaped by unique events impinging on the growing brain. How the fetus lay in the womb, how much maternal blood is diverted, how it was squeezed during birth, whether it was dropped on its head or caught certain viruses in the early years. Perhaps personality is shaped by unique experiences like being chased by a dog or receiving an act of kindness from a teacher. Perhaps the traits of parents and the traits of children interact in complicated ways, so that 2 children growing up with the same parents really have different environments. One kind of parent may reward a rambunctious child and punish a placid one. Another kind of parent may do the opposite. There is no good evidence for these scenarios, and I think 2 others are more plausible, both of which see personality as an adaptation rooted in the divergence of interests between parents and offspring. One is the child's battle plan for competing with its siblings, which I will discuss in the following section, but that does not say anything about children who are only child. Judith Harris has amassed evidence that children everywhere are socialized by their peer group, not by their parents. At all ages, children join various play groups, circles, gangs, packs, cliques, and salons, and they jockey for status within them. Each is a